Let's start today with the formatting of the cells. Very, very important that we know how to format different type of data that we were talking about. So for example, let's say I have where is it done? Today we are talking about this number format over here. So what is the role of this number format over here? Numbers can exist in various formats, right? It could be a number can be stored as a number. It could be a currency we are talking about. It could be a date. Remember, we spoke about dates are stored as a whole number. It could be time. Again, we understood that time is stored as a decimal. It could be percentages. And a number can also be stored as a text. So number can be stored in a lot of formats. Now, when you are giving information to the end user, it always looks better if we format our data and then show it in our report, because then it becomes easier for the end user to understand our data. A simple example would be, let's say if I have a bunch of numbers, this is going to generate 10 rows, 1, I've got a bunch of numbers and I want to, I'm going to divide this by, let's say, 1000. And I want to show this as a percentage. Okay. So when I divide, I get these values, 0.553, 0.332. How can I make it look like a percentage? Do you think this is looking nice? This is, let's say, some value. This is this percentage of value. So do you think 0.553, 0.322, 0.232, is this looking nice when I'm trying to show it as a percentage? From the business point of view, no, not a good thing to look at. So how can I improve this thing? How many of you think this could also work, if I put into 100, because that's how you calculate your percentage. You would essentially do 553 into 100 divided by 1000, right? And you get this value of 55.3%. What do you think about this method? Good or bad? It's a lot of work. Plus, there's still a problem that I still have to mention very nicely in my header that what you're looking at is not just 55.3, is 55.3%, because that percentage sign is not there. Okay. So rather than doing this kind of formatting, it's better that we use our number formats from here. So what we need to do is, let's say we want to select the entire column. And over here as a shortcut, you can see the percentage symbol stays here, which is Control-Shift%. So once I click on it, very nicely, it has formatted 55%, 32%, 23%, and so on and so forth. So effort becomes less. The output is better looking and easy to understand in reports. And in reporting, you need to have proper, formatting of the data for it to be understood. Now, if I wanted, this is 55, but if you remember, originally we got 55.3. So my 0.3 is gone. How do I bring it back? If I wanted to show the data as 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places, how do I do that? So again, we are going to work in this number format, and you will see there are 2 things over here. One is decreased decimals. One is increased decimals. So if I click on increased decimals, now it is giving me 55.3. And if I click on more, then I'll get 55.30. And it is a very good habit to make sure that if you are showing something as a percentage, it should not be that something is a 2-digit number, something is a 3-digit, like after the decimal, something is 1 digit after the decimal, something is 2-digit after the decimal. Have a consistency in your how many decimal places do I want to leave in my values. So how do we control our decimals? We are going to control our decimals from these formatting over here in under the group of number formatting. So far, so good. So there's a column called charges. Column D is there. What I want you to do simply is make another column H and divide these charges by, let's say, 100,000. Okay, that's it. And when you get this cell, go to the right bottom, double click so that the values get passed on. All right. In the column H, put equal to, select the cell, divided by 100,000, press enter. Once you're done, double click on the right bottom to pass on the formula to rest of the cells. Once this is done, I would want you to select the column, and in your number format, make sure you make it as a percentage, and make sure you have a uniform decimal places in all the numbers. So we started and we were discussing how do you use the number formatting of a percentage and how do you decrease or increase the number of decimals in your numbers. Okay, so I had given a small exercise that I said, okay, whatever is the value in column G, divided by 100,000. Once this is done, we will copy paste. And how do we copy paste? Just go to the right bottom, double click. This value is there. And then in order to format it, you would click again, home ribbon, number group, percentage symbol. But now you see there is something called 17, then there's 2, there is 3, and there's no decimal throughout. So if I wanted to introduce decimal numbers, I would go over here and increase the decimal spaces. Or if I want to decrease the decimal spaces, then I click on this symbol. All right. So this is your number formatting. Let's talk about one more thing. Now, if I put a number, let's say 12,350, and the same value I have in all the cells, and I will apply different type of formatting on all three. On one, I'll put number. One, I will want to, I will make it as currency, and one I'm going to make it as accounting. So what is the difference? Let's see. So once I select the first one, and over here you see in number it's general. When you click on the drop down, the second one is number, and it shows it is going to have 2 decimal places. So once I click on it, this is what happens, and now we know how to decrease the number of decimals in it. So this is back to normal that we started. This is a number format. Second one, I want to apply the currency. So once I click on the currency, this is how it appears. So what it did again, it put a currency symbol. By default, I have the Indian rupee symbol over here. And it gives us 2 decimal places also. And to the third one, again, I'm going to go back. So I've used number, I've used currency, and now I'll use accounting. So once I click on accounting, it is giving me 12,000 with a comma, 350, decimal, 2 decimal places. But the symbol of currency is on the extreme left. Okay. So that is the main difference between currency and accounting. So if you think about, if you look at the elements over here, both of them are kind of similar. The only difference is in case of currency, the currency symbol is placed right next to the number. And in case of accounting, it is kept on the extreme left. Now, why do you think why do you think this is happening? Or why do you think in accounting, the symbol is kept on extreme left? How does it help? So over here, if I put it as accounting, now why this is beneficial? Because when you think about accounting, people are trying to keep all the places, like the unit places, the tens places, the 100 places under each other. So once you put accounting, what it does, it puts a symbol on the extreme left so that there is no overlapping of the currencies with the numbers when there is difference in the numbers over here. Like I've put 234, 1234, 11,234. Versus if I would have done the same thing over here and put a simple currency. Now you see how my currency symbols are also mixed up with the numbers. So that's the main difference. So when typically, if I just want to show the charges, like what we have over here, if I want to show the charges, and it's not that I'm going to do any kind of, calculation on top of it, then I can simply select it and convert it into a currency. Why should I convert it into a currency? Because that helps me to indicate I'm talking about the money part. But if it was an accounting firm, or if you're working or you're looking at someone who is taking care of the finance and accounting, then you will see everyone is going to use, instead of currency, they'll be using accounting, and that's the only difference. All right, so that's the main thing. That is the difference between currency and accounting. Now let's come to the formatting of dates. So when you talk about dates, like today is a very easy day, because when I say 2/2/2022, for me, I'm saying it's DDMMYY, because that's how we write in India. We write the date first, then the month, then the year. And in US, we write DD, and YY. We first write the month, then the date, and then the year, right? But today's date is such that both of us will not come to know what the error is. So let's say if I wanted to put 31st Jan date, 31st January 2022. So the way I will write it is 31/1/2022, right? So what are the acceptable things in date? It's either your hyphens or your slashes. Okay. Now, if suppose I'm going to print this report and give it to your team. So this is going to be easy for you to read, or it's confusing for you to read the dates? What format I've written it? I've written DDMMYY. Easy for you to read or no? It is, yes. And specifically, if I had put dates something like this, then what is 5? Is it a day or is it a month? Right? So 31 is still not going to be too confusing, but easy is, this is going to be difficult to read for you because you are writing in MMDDY. So what I should be doing, I should be formatting my date, or vice versa, right? If you're writing in MMDDYY, but you want to send to someone who should be able to see DDMMYY, we can format our dates also. So how do we format? We can go to this launcher. This is called a dialog launcher. You can click over here, and right here, I have got all the various ways of showing the existing date. So if I click over here, it shows as 31st January as a word. I go back over here, then I can show it as a dot. I can show it as year, and then as Wednesday, whatever formats are over here. But it still hasn't solved my problem that the way I'm showing is DDMMYY. So if I want to change it, I can change the location in my Excel sheet. So I can make it go to, let's say, US, United States. And then you will see that I've got 3/14. And if I click over here, now I've got 1/31/22. But what you really need to understand is what we have done is, we've changed the look of it, but essentially the value inside the cell is still the same. So if you look at the top, this is called a formula bar. So in the formula bar, it's still 31/1. But what we have done, we've formatted to look as MMDDY now. Over here, when you saw, the value in the cell is still 234. But we have put a currency symbol for the formatting, for the aesthetic, for the better presentation of the data. Is it clear what we did with the dates, or how we're going to format the dates? Date can be presented in various ways, right? So how, if I want to change the way the dates are presented in Excel, how would I do that? You can select the entire column. Once there, use this number formatting, and you see this dialog launcher. Once you click on this arrow, it takes you to the category date, and this shows all the different ways I can show date. So you can see it will have March 14, March 12, where the date is not showing, short form of March, all the various things with the date, with the time and date is there. So we can pick and choose which format do we want to apply on our cell. Now, irrespective which format you apply on your cell, the value of that cell is not changing. So I have not put the word January 31 in my cell. It is still 31-1. So what we're doing is just look and feel we are changing. But what I was trying to make sure that you understand that the basic value in the cell remains the same. We are just changing the look of it. Okay, right? So instead of putting the dates in this format with even a hyphen, we can make it more readable, right? So instead of saying 1, I can make it January. Instead of saying 2 as a month, I can make it Feb. So again, how can I change the look and feel of it? Select the column of date. We are going to the number format. And over here, I've got choices how to show it. So I can choose, let's say, 15th. So I want to spell it out, the name of the month, and my date changes. All right. So just changing the look of the date. But essentially in the cell, it's the same thing that I started with. Now, same thing with the time as well. When you're working with time, again, we can format the way the time is looking. Now, why I was telling you about this formatting, because I don't know if you have ever experienced that if we, let's say, subtract the two dates. So for example, if I say this date minus this date, now it is coming as 2, but sometimes it shows up as a date itself. Sometimes it does, right? When you're putting 2 dates, you subtract, it comes as a date. So if it's coming as a date, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Something like this. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's the output is not wrong. All you have to do is you have to convert this into a number format. So once you click here and you click on the number, this becomes 2. So difference between these two dates is 2 days. Now, same thing when it comes to time. So if I put, let's say 21:31, press enter, this is the time. Now, if I want to change the format, I can again go to this time. It is giving me the various ways I can put the time. Do you want PM? Do you want 12-hour clock? Do you want 24-hour clock? Do you want the seconds to be there? You don't want the seconds to be there. All this is there. And again, if I move to United States, so again, I've got these formats that are available. Okay, so you can change the look and feel of the data that you've entered through this formatting. And again, if I subtract the two time, let's say somebody entered at 6 a.m., somebody left at 4 p.m. And if I wanted to find out how many hours a person has worked, so we simply do this minus 4 p.m. minus 6 p.m. and it's showing me 10 a.m. What Excel does is try to replicate the format around it. But when I subtract two numbers or two time rather, the output cannot be time. It has to be a number. So what should I do to get it? It's going to be a number format. Because if I say how many hours a person worked, you will essentially tell me 8 hours or 3 hours. So you will tell me a whole number. So if I go back and convert it into a number, it gives me 0.42. Why did it give me 0.42? How does Excel store time? So this I can convert to a number because Excel stores time as a decimal on a 24-hour clock. So why 0.25? Because it is 6 divided by 24. And this was 4 p.m. So 4 p.m. on 24-hour clock is 16. So 16 divided by 24, 0.67. And when you subtract these two numbers, you get 0.42. Okay, so that's why it is giving you 0.42. And in order to read it better, let me convert it back to a time. So this gives me 6 a.m., 1600, and this is 0.42. Now, in order to actually get the, the number of hours, I need to multiply it by 60. No, not 60. What did I do? By 24. So I'll get 10 hours. So a person has worked for 10 hours. Why I multiply by 24? Because all these is done on 24-hour clock. And if I don't want to show it as 16 or 6 and I want it to show as an AM or a PM, I'll go back over here, change the format, click OK. So now it's showing me as 6 AM, as 4 PM, And over here, whatever is the difference, I just had to multiply by 24 and convert it into a number. We can reduce the decimals. And now I know the person has worked for 10 hours. Let's move on to the other formatting. What else do we have in formatting? So we can have as number, as a currency, as a counting, as a date, as time, as percentage. So something that I did using this symbol over here, I could have also done it the same thing. If I remove this percentage, make it as a normal number, I could have formatted this column even by going by this dialog launcher, going to the percentage, deciding how many decimal spaces I need. I can increase or decrease it using these spin buttons over here and click OK, and it shows me as a percentage. Right? What else do we have over here? Then we have fractions. Now, what is the problem with fractions? If I want to write in my cell 1 by 2 and I press enter, what did it do? My system is DDMM. So first is the day and second is the month. So what did it do in my system? What it does is when you are dividing like this, always it converts into a date, and unless it's a, the number which cannot be a date. For example, if I do 45 divided by, let's say, 13, now it won't convert to a date because neither the days are 45, neither the months is 45. So this would work. But other than that, a lot of time when we are trying to enter the fractions, it does not let us apply the fractions. The reason it converts into a date and it automatically picks the current year. So if I wanted to apply in one particular column or in few cells fractions, the way to do would be to change the basic formatting of the cell. Again, I'll select the cells. Let's say this is the place where I want to put the fractions. I'll go over here, number format, make it fraction, up to 2 digits, up to 3 digits, as halves, as quarters. Just let know what is this formatting you need. If you click OK, and now if I do 1 by 2, it will stay as 1 by 2. If I put 2 by 3, it stays as 2 by 3. So now this is still taking it as a fraction rather than taking it as a date. All right, clear about the fractions? Then we have scientific, we don't need it. Then we have text, don't need it so much. In special, for example, what is the benefit of having special? So for example, social security number. Right? Now, this is not the format that typically we see the social security number. There are hyphens at the, it would be 633 hyphen 88 hyphen and so on and so forth. So instead of me putting these hyphens, I can simply go to the formatting, go to special, and say this is a social security number, and it automatically puts the hyphen in formatting. Again, the same concept. This is in formatting. Look and feel has changed, but essentially the number in the cell is still without the hyphens. Same goes for the phone numbers. Again, there's a specific way in which we put our phone numbers. So if I want to put it properly and I've just typed in, I can simply go to format. Again, I can go to the special, I can go to the phone numbers, it converts into a proper format of a phone number. So that's the role of formatting. It just improves the look of the data that you're looking at. More readable. Now let's talk about the concept of wrap text. So last time when we were doing the session, we spoke about the column width, right? So if I have a data, and what happens if I put a number which is longer, what happens typically? It either converts it into scientific data, scientific number format. We spoke about format, right? If this is coming, I can make it go back to a number. I can say I don't want the scientific, I want it as a number. But what it essentially does is either converts into scientific or converts it into these hashes. Remember, we have looked at these and we said all we need to do is increase the width of the column and it works for us, right? Now, what happens when you work with text? When you work with text and the text becomes very long. This is then what does it do? Is all the content in cell A1 or is it in B1 and C1 also? It's only in A1, right? But it shows that it is also in B1 and C1, overlapping to another column. It shows, but it's actually only in A1. So if I click on A1, I can see the entire text. If I click on B1, it's blank. If I click on C1, it's blank. So when you have a table and you have data one after the other, and if I had some value over here also, it's right. So what it is doing now, the other part is hidden. Now I've come to this cell. This is also overflowing to the next one. So typically what we can do, we have two ways. One is that I can increase the width of my auto fit and increase the width of my column to fit in my data, correct? We all know how to do an auto fit, correct? So is this a good habit or is this a good strategy to fit in the data? No. So auto fitting all the time might not be the greatest idea. Second thing is sometimes the text is too big in few cells, and based on the largest length of the text, it auto fits. So it might be that you have tiny values in all the cells, and because of one cell, the one column has become too wide. And this also results in winding your entire table, which again will give a very bad user experience to look at the table and such a wide table, and then you're going left to right and looking at your values. So what is a better way to do it? We do a combination that will do auto fit and we'll do something called wrap text. So what is the role of a wrap text? If I have a text in a particular cell, without increasing the width of the column, it fits in the text. Now, how does it fit the text? By increasing the height of the row. So if I select these two, and if I go to the home ribbon, over here in the alignment group, there is wrap text. If I click on it, what it did? It didn't increase the width, but increase the height of your cells. So why did I say that it's a good strategy to use both together? Because even this is looking very bad. That there may be some rows which are thin, some rows which have become very thick because it's trying to fit the data. So we have to understand that, okay, when we are presenting a table, want to make sure all the columns, as much as possible, all the columns should have the same width. All the rows should have the same height. So in that process, you have to keep thinking, okay, probably this much. My column also doesn't look bad. Whatever is the width of my column is, let's say 13.64. I can make sure all my columns are of the same width, right? And then I can fit in my data also. And whatever is the height of this particular row that I have, I would pick this row height and pass it on to all. So your table should look very consistent in terms of the height and the width, both. So wrap text helps us to reduce this or get away with only widening the columns, because sometimes it might not really be an option to just keep on widening the column. So that is what your wrap text is all about. Very quickly, I'll also show you how to change the sheet tab colors. What do you mean by sheet tab colors? Right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets. If I want to change the color of the tab, I can right click. There is something called tab color, and I can select one of the colors. Now, what do you think is the benefit of coloring a worksheet tab? Why should we color it? To have the significance. Okay, so if I have 5 sheets, 5 colors, would that signify anything? If you want to bring attention to it, yes, that you can do. Or I'm going to use this example that you have used. Something like you're saying, okay, like these sheets are done, these are work in progress. These are not done yet. So what you are essentially doing is visually, by giving a different color to the different tabs, you are making groups of it. So if I look at a sheet which is green in color, I know it's done. If I look at a sheet which is like say red in color, I know the work is still being done on it, so I should not look at it. Similarly, if you look at my current workbook that I've opened, you will see everything that has the word notes at the end is blue in color, and everything that has a word EXER to signify it's an exercise is orange in color. So just like your example, I'm also showing the same thing, that I've tried to visually create a group, two groups, notes and exercises. Notes are blue tabs, exercises are orange tabs. So only reason you should be putting colors on your tab is when you want to have, make a visually distinction between two groups or more than two groups of sheets. Otherwise, 5 sheets, 5 different colors adds no value to it. It's in fact confusing, because then you will, the human mind works in a way that you try to find a significance of the colors. So you will try to say, okay, what does it mean? What does yellow mean? What does blue mean? Or what does green mean? So try to avoid the coloring until there's a specific reason of creating groups in it. So next time when we come, we are going to start to work with the tables, and we'll do again the basic things, like if I have to sort the data, and why should I sort the data? Or if I want to filter the data, why should I filter the data? How to filter the data? So we'll start working with these two things. We will not be covering both together. So we'll do the format painting and then we'll get to sorting. All right. So everybody have a good day.